What's up, guys? IFBB Pro LaCombe here, back at First Coast Muscle. We are here training some shoulders and arms today. I love this little split that I got going on right now, shoulders and arms. So I'm excited to try some of this RSO equipment in here, stuff that I had eyed out from my gym that I'm actually going to be able to put to use in today in the gym. So I'm excited for that. Let's enjoy this one. It's going to be good. So I'm starting with some side laterals here. Any standing lateral is a very good movement to start with, in my opinion, because it's going to really warm up that shoulder medial, which is the medius part of your shoulder. You have a front, a side, and a rear. I personally like to start right in the center and then go from there. I have predominantly larger front delts, and they always take over, so I don't really individualize those on my shoulder days. It's mostly about medial delt and rear delt. So right now we're going to do probably about 3 or 4 sets, working sets of this. We're going progressive upload, adding a little bit of weight, making sure we're staying in that rep range of 10 to 15 reps, good time under tension. Big advocate of that. I'm high volume guy, and I like to keep intensity through my sets, so making sure I'm moving good weight. So let's get it. We'll keep warming up the shoulders a little bit more, get some blood in there, in the rear part of the shoulder, and then we'll get into a compound movement. Alright guys, so something I like to put a lot of emphasis on is my rear delts. A lot of people neglect them. For one, they're just kind of an awkward muscle to train. A lot of people have the the issue of not being able to feel the motion or the exercise. So they neglect to train them, and what that leads to is a lot of issues with your shoulder because you have everything pulling you forward and nothing balancing on the pull back. So not to mention, it looks kind of aesthetically unpleasing when somebody's front delt dominant and then they go to hit a side chest or a rear pose and they're completely shallow in that rear delt region. So it can actually add width to your side poses from a bodybuilding standpoint. From even a physical standpoint, this is definitely something that you want to pay a lot of attention to. This is a great movement right here. And then I also like doing moderately heavy with the dumbbells. What's great about those is you're able to not be on a track, so you can kind of find your motion. If you're not feeling that, I would suggest trying those, but definitely do not neglect training the rear delt. Alright guys, so this is I guess your climax of your workout or your compound movement. Alright, so this is shoulder press of choice today. It's the Arsenal strength press. It's going to be an isolateral press. I'm actually doing both at the same time. So great piece of equipment, even greater exercise when you're trying to build mass and overall fullness in your shoulder. So this is my 3rd working set here. We'll probably do one more after this, and then get into something more of an auxiliary movement like we did the 2 previous. Alright guys, so this is a little abbreviation or modification of a front raise. I like these because it really pinpoints the front delt. This forces you to stop your motion, and if you're doing it correctly, you've seen at the bottom of my motion, I'm controlling the negative too. I'm not just letting it fall. So I'm keeping tension all the way through the motion, up and down, throughout the entire motion. All I can say is if you want to try them, and if you do them right, let me know of how they feel. I can guarantee you're going to like them. You're going to feel a good burn. You're going to feel a good concentration. And if you're not into lifting a bunch of weight and are okay with having to move like lighter weight, but you're actually working the muscle you're trying to grow, this is a great movement for you to try. Alright guys, this is an auxiliary movement for rear delts, something I've been doing for about 5 years now. Just something that really puts a lot of integration and focus on the rear delt. It's a very, very small muscle, and it is difficult to target if you don't know what you're trying to look for in your movement. I really like these, but I would say that this is a very good example of something acquired. It's an acquired taste. So you're really going to have to make sure that you're not using your biceps or your back muscles that are trying to take away from that, because those are going to be your more primary muscles that are going to try to take over. Your rear delt is definitely a secondary muscle in almost every movement, so it's very hard to pinpoint that. If you do this exercise right, make sure your body's not swaying either which way. You're staying very strong through your cortex, and making sure that you're really emphasizing pulling all the way back, as far back as your scapula is going to let you go. It's a very good movement, puts very good strain, positive strain on the muscles. All right guys, just to touch upon the level of height, it's pretty simple. I'm a shorter guy, so you want to make sure that you're about, I'll say 10 to 12 inches above your shoulders, because you want to have that right plane of motion, and it's something you're going to have to play with. When I mentioned earlier about an acquired taste, that's something I'm pertaining to, is the level. You're going to have to really feel, because everybody's body, regardless if I'm the same height as the next guy, our bodies might be sculpted differently. He might have longer limbs than me, okay, which that's going to change how high that has to be. If you're a taller person or a shorter person than me, that's going to change the level of height. So basically, biggest thing with this movement is obviously strict form, but also setting up the motion, making sure that you're feeling it right before you continuously go through the movements. What I like to do is kind of throw like a small arch in my back, and basically what I'm doing is then creating that plane more as a down movement. Okay, so if you guys are looking in here, these are set up on a downward plane, and then what I'm doing is I'm kind of meeting that plane by giving it a little bit of arch. And then what I'm not doing though too much is doing it to where it's taking away from my form. I'm not using momentum where I'm going back and forth. I'm coming here and I'm staying there, okay? Staying tight through my cortex, making sure that everything's tight motion, and it's creating a good foundation for the movement that I'm creating. Okay, now we covered all our bases, all delts have been hit, a couple different exercises for each. Now we're going to go into our arms, but I will actually do some dumbbell lateral raises because no one can ever have round enough delts, right? Right. Got me a little grenade ball. So I have a very similar contraption. Actually made it in college. And what I did was I took a baseball, because I was a baseball player in college. Fun fact. And I drilled a screw tip eyelid through it, and then I throw a little carabiner on there, and bam, I got myself a self-made grenade. So being out of the pit, it's quite awesome finding this contraption here, because I like using this for my single arm tricep kickbacks. It just puts an awesome emphasis on the short head, which is out here, and that's obviously that big 3D, like Phil Heath arm that everyone's trying to attain. And this really puts emphasis on that outside tricep, which is going to be your short head. And that's why I like starting with these. So just to walk you guys through a couple, form abnormalities, because you might want to grab it and just go straight down, which you're still going to get tricep work. But for me, when I angle myself this way and kind of pushing outwards instead of down, I eliminate my long head tricep, put more focus on my short head tricep. That's kind of why you see me tilting and pushing outward, and I'm actually even putting more pressure on the outsides of my hand versus the inside. So I'm making sure that I'm pushing outward and focusing on really mind to muscle connection with that short head tricep. guys, just real quick little tip, might be interesting to some. When I do these, I don't put a tight grip on it, and what I do is I kind of let my fingers just kind of hang. So when I'm doing them like this, the reason why I'm doing that is I'm creating leverage or lag in my grip to create more of a pull on my delt that I'm trying to actually put tension on. So what I'm doing is I'm not using any wrist. I'm just kind of like letting it sit, real limp wrist. And I'm pulling up as far as I can, and what that's doing is putting much more strain and drag leverage on my delt. So versus if I'm here and I got my thumb integrated into the movement and I got a stiff wrist, what's that doing? That's creating stability. That stability is going to take away from the tension that's in my shoulder. What are we trying to do here? Trying to put as much tension, time under tension of the muscle that we're trying to work. So limp wrist, lift. Extreme strain, immediate. Don't have to go heavy, don't have to risk injury, and don't have to look like an idiot in the gym. How about that? Can you see when I'm pushing out, I'm kind of toppling my wrist over. So if you get in close here, you can see what I was talking about, and it's something as simple as pressure points. I'm a baseball player, so as a pitcher, you use the seams pressure on your two fingers, okay? Whether it's a fastball, two-seam fastball, four-seam fastball, I'm using integration of the pressure in my fingers that I'm applying to push that ball left or right, center, up or down, okay? Same thing here. I want to integrate all the pressure that I can put and all the tension I can put on the outside of my tricep. So I'm rolling my wrist to force that motion. Okay, and what that's doing is dragging all the tension into the outside of the tricep. Of course, it's inevitable. The long head's gonna get worked no matter what. But if I'm forcing outward, it's inevitable that I'm gonna get more tension on the outside of my arm. Little tidbit there. Awesome movement right here. I love these. I actually found these on accident. I have these at my home gym in the pit, and they're actually for back movements, but I was just messing around one day, pulled it down. I'm like, did a couple more times, like that feels awesome on my tricep, because what it does is, you guys seen obviously the traditional V bars. I have like terrible wrists from playing baseball for 20 something years. So what these do, even in the back motions, or the back movements, they take the tension out of the wrists. So with that, it is awesome because I love that push and that tension that the V-bar puts on my triceps, but it absolutely kills my wrists. So that alleviates the pain, and I'm still getting that same tension, that same type of feeling in this motion with this piece that I do with the V-bar. So that's dope. All right, guys, so when you're going heavy, obviously you have to get to a point where you're gonna have to lean over it a little bit, kind of keep that weight down. Form stays tight, okay? You still have to make sure that you're getting to that 90-degree angle, maybe slightly past to get a good stretch on that tricep, and staying pushed over the weight. So I'm not using my weight as momentum, I'm just using it as a foundation. Okay, so I'm still here, which doesn't change from here, or I'm here. It's gonna be the starting movement. And then it's your job to make sure that you stay put and don't use your body weight as momentum during that movement, because it's going to take away from the triceps. I like this tension. It's hard to find a good bicep machine, especially a preacher crew. It's all about the angle of the bar. See, it's very good to find one that travels the right angle. All right, guys, so we're gonna jump into some biceps. What I like to do is 2 tricep movements, 2 bicep movements, 2 tricep movements, 2 bicep movements. The reason why I like to switch it up like that is because I really start to feel some strain in my joints and not in the muscle. So what I feel like splitting it up like that does, besides the fact that I'm equally training my arm during that and I'm having a good pump throughout my workout, I'm not putting strenuous pressure that could be avoided by just splitting it up. So just something I've always done with arms. I kind of go 2, 2, 2, and 2. Sometimes I'll finish with only one bicep, depending on really how the arms go. When I feel like there's just no more blood that you're going to get in there, you start risking injury. You hear about everyone and their mother tearing their biceps doing goofy shit. So I don't want to be a statistic, and this is what was worked for however many years, 20 years, whatever it's been since I started training. And I'm going to stick with it because I'm 34 now, and sometimes I feel my age in my joints and in my muscles and stuff like that, but I've never, knock on wood, had a injury that could have been prevented by not lifting properly or not properly warming up or cooling down on an exercise. So this is something that you guys can maybe try in your workout if you're just getting started, or if you've been doing it for as long as me and you've been having issues. Maybe it's time to switch it up and train according to your age and train according to what your body's telling you it wants to do. So let's get into these biceps. Alright guys, so what we're doing is we're moving to the cable curl. Why I like using this is because we're going to be working the inner head here by taking our grips and moving outwards. And then over there what we're focusing on is doing a closer grip, which has a break in the bar, taking the tension off the wrist. We're really focusing on the exterior of the bicep. Alright, so if you're not training both heads, definitely start, because that's going to create a nice full body muscle and it's going to be a nice peak for you if you're either on stage or just flexing into me. So what this is a modification to something like a skull crusher. That's going to be a real nice compound movement that creates awesome tension on the tricep, but also creates terrible tension on your wrists and your elbows. So give these a try. They completely alleviate all the pain, assuming that you don't have some kind of crazy tear or something like that in your shoulder or your elbow. This is an awesome abbreviation to a great movement that tends to get neglected or not done, forgotten about, because it causes pain and no one wants to feel that. So give it a try. Let me know what you guys think. Alright guys, so this is going to put emphasis obviously on the whole tricep, but it's really going to put first and foremost tension on your long head, which is your medius part of your triceps, the bigger one, and that's what's going to help push that arm out and really give girth to that tricep, body to that tricep. Biggest difference between standing up and sitting down like this is similar to when I spoke earlier on the front raises. It's just putting my body in a fixed position, making sure that all emphasis and no mobility is being taken away from the tricep. I'm not receiving any momentum help from my body. I'm putting all the tension and movement, all that responsibility is on the drivers of my tricep. So that's why I choose to get into this fixed position, and it also puts you in the same position as a skull crusher, so you kind of feel like you're in that same realm of movement. So I love these. I love this workout. I love this movement. It's great, and it's really helped me out through the years. So. Yeah, this motherfucker's just burned a different way, bro. Seriously. It's another machine I had my eyes set on. I like this guy. It's like a simulated dip, but it's weighted and it's got these cool little balls on the end. Put a nice little grip, and it's light too, so it makes me feel good about myself as I keep adding weight. So finishing my biceps off with some hammer curls. Not going too crazy heavy, just making sure I get something between 10 to 15 reps, 10 to 12 reps. I like these a lot because it really elongates the bicep, really fills up any gaps that's going on in there. And I also like it because it puts a lot of emphasis on your brachial, something that's completely undertrained. And there's nothing worse than seeing a big dude with skinny forearms. It just don't look right. It's like a girl with ass implants and no legs, if you can imagine that. So I like these. It's safe. It's a safe movement as long as you're not, counteracting and crossing your shoulders. I've seen some people hurt themselves impinging. I've done it myself where I've kind of got a little wild, lost some form, and I went too much across and pinched my shoulder. But that's something I'm susceptible to, and you might be too. So when you're doing these, making sure you're keeping strict form, because it's easier to go heavier with these than it is your traditional curl where you're pronating. That's gonna be a lot harder of a motion. You're gonna have to be a little bit more modest with your weight. These, it's easy to lift heavier weight. It's easy to get out of control with them. So you got to make sure that form stays nice and tight, and you're not taking 2 steps backwards by injuring yourself. All right, guys. So that's it today for shoulders and arms. I appreciate tuning in. Here, signing out. First Coast Muscle. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to training some legs here tomorrow, doing some hams and glute focus. So yeah, about to get in this post-workout meal. You guys are in the Jacksonville area, highly suggest you come check them out, and do yourself a favor, make sure you're getting that pre-workout and then the replenishment with a solid supplement line. These guys got it where it's at. CondemnedLabz.com. Thanks, guys.